was like sick to my stomach. I'm like, I feel so bad because like I knew how much it meant to him, how hard he had worked. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's like running.
I thought I was going to screw.
Zone.
I mean, it was, well, then there was a big debate, like what was worse, doing the fart on Monday Night Football or back of the end zone? Like, I don't know. Do we know what was worse?
Yeah, we need to ask, what's worse, farting on live air or running out of the back of the end zone, Dan?
Well, I don't know.
Got to choose one. What would you rather do?
I would probably rather fart on live air.
Hey, y'all, it's Pat. Welcome to another episode of Like a Farmer. I cannot tell you how excited I am. Probably two of my biggest supporters since day one are finally on the show. Of course, I had to come to Buffalo to bring them on. Dan Orlovsky, Laura Rutledge. We're going to be talking about NFL. We're going to be talking about college football. Obviously, we're going to be talking about wings because we're here in Buffalo and a lot more. Let's get into it. Dano, Ruddy. Can I call you Ruddy?
Oh, please. I love
that's
that.
Dan calls you that.
I'm Ruddy. I don't know. I really don't like my name. Like my
no
first
one really
name.
calls her Laura.
Yeah, I don't know.
I call her Ruddy. Marcus calls her El Boogie. I guess Mina calls you Laura.
She doesn't call me anything.
What does RC call you?
He's been calling me Low lately, but I don't know where that came from. But I like it. I Ruddy.
Why don't you like your name? Just said it.
I don't know how to say it. I think it's
Laura.
But it's not Laura because I'm from the South, and it's not like Lara. So it's somewhere in between.
What is?
If you notice, I never say it. Like I will always introduce everybody else, and I would do that anyway because it's about them and not me. But
yeah.
I try to avoid saying my name.
Why is there a way the Southern folk pronounce Laura?
Laura. Hey, Laura.
Yeah,
Laura.
Let me just start from the beginning and I know y'all just like me. That's why you're coming on the show. But I do think, and we've had so many different people from different lifestyles come on this show. And I think, I mean, Josh and I started this show for one reason, and that's to make that word farmer popular. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you do, how you grew up. I just think in everyday aspect, the people that really work 24/7, feed us, clothe us, they are part of our lifestyle.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why come on this show, especially starting with you, Dan?
I think I do appreciate the type of human being you are. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate the grind mentality that you have, the kind of go after it mentality. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of Josh's, both as a player, but as a dude and a person I've been, fortunate enough to hang out with a couple times. So anything that kind of he's attached with, I'm in support of. Like I think I've mentioned to you before, like I'm not going to pretend that I'm a farmer or a
outdoorsman,
a country boy or outdoorsman, but I grew up next to a farm. Wildly as we've gotten older, at least I've gotten older, I have a greater appreciation for everything that my life goes through on a daily basis that is so easy would not be. This isn't attached to technology, but it would not be unless for, farmers that, work super hard and kind of like a thankless job in many ways. So there is a very real reality of that.
God, I love that. What about you?
Yeah.
That was great, Dan.
I mean,
good luck.
Dan, wow.
Good luck.
I think, agriculture is the foundation that our world is built on, right? And it's so true in the U.S., but there are so many different ways to look at it. And I think just the sacrifice that farmers make, not only for their families, but also for all of us. We can't eat the way that we want or have even the products that we want to have without the work that goes into it. And you never know with the weather and climate change and things that happen, how it's going to go every year. And to know that your livelihood is based on that and you have to find a way to make it work. And just the ingenuity and the way that they approach things, I think is fascinating. I also just love being out on a farm or, farmland.
You have a garden.
I do, and we love...
It's like a mini farm, right?
I can't claim to be a farmer, but I would love to be one day. That's like an ultimate goal is to just go and have a bunch of land and not have to...
what's crazy
and disappear.
I love that.
Yeah, what's crazy
Can you
is...
help me?
Every summer, my family and we go down to the Jersey Shore to this beach town called Sea Isle City, and we've done it for like 15 years in a row now, and our kids have kind of grown up going there for... used to be a month when I was still playing, but a week now. And like one of my favorite parts of that is every Tuesday they have big giant farmers market. And so like
Love
we
that.
go down there and it's fruit and it's veggies. And there's obviously a lot of like different types of setups. And so we live in a small beach town in Connecticut now. And I'd always seen like the advertisement for like the farmers market in Westport, Connecticut. And I was always like, yeah, whatever. And so we ended up going one time this year. It's the thing I look forward to the most on a weekly basis now, like going there. And I don't know what's happened with me with like a little bit of like very abnormal to like my, I guess my personality, but I love going there and getting like fresh meat, fresh chicken, fresh produce. I'm not the biggest vegetable person on the planet, but I'll grab a couple fresh
Just getting
vegetables.
a fresh Caesar salad from the farmer's
yeah,
market.
yeah, fresh Caesar salad, fresh pizza.
Ooh,
Yeah.
That's really
I
good.
think deep down inside, you kind of are like a country boy.
Oh, I
think.
He
am.
just doesn't. He hasn't identified his roots fully yet, but he'll get there.
Well, I'm a dude.
Yeah,
I think like most dudes can resonate with like just like a lot of the
for
traits.
sure. I agree. And like, so, and it's so cool. So Josh and I are sitting here and it's like, okay, we got to pick 4 pillars of what we're calling the rural America lifestyle. Obviously outdoors, hunting, fishing, farming, sports. I think there's nothing more right now, probably ever, than sports that actually brings people together. And I think it's like dinner conversations, it's at family reunions, Christmas, Thanksgiving, like people, whether you're a Dallas Cowboys fan or a Green Bay Packers fan or a Florida fan or a Florida State fan, like it brings people together. Food, I think this is one of the most important times right now of like, where does your food come from and who
Yes.
grows your food?
Sure.
And then the last pillar, which we all can agree on, is country music.
Yeah.
Like, you think about how popular country music is now. So I think when you mix those 4 pillars together and you kind of get the like a farmer style lifestyle, like that brings everybody together.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because we've been to a couple country concerts.
Sure.
I mean, Parker McCollum at MetLife was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
So,
Parker's great,
He's
man.
great. Yeah.
I was disappointed because we went to this summer. That's probably one of me and my wife's favorite things to do. Now, I only really go to country concerts outside. I don't like indoor country concerts. I just don't.
I feel like
hot
they're
take.
supposed to be outside.
Yeah, like
I've
I
never
just
been to one
I don't
inside,
like
I don't
going
think.
to them indoors. So summertime's big for us. So we went to Luke this year. We went to Morgan this year. I was super bummed. Parker was
opening for Wallen.
he opened, and then I was supposed to go to Jordan Davis, who's one that I really want to get
I
to.
love him.
He was in Bridgeport, Connecticut this summer, the same night that Luke Combs was at MetLife. And I wanted to go to Jordan, but then wanted to go to, Luke. So we ended up going to Luke. And then Jordan, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, was in Long Island. And I was going to go. We were like, let's go. We'll take our kids. We want to take our kids to it as well. And I had to work. And so I was super bummed because twice this year I wanted to go see him. So I'm hoping he gets back to Connecticut next year. But yeah, country concerts outside are one of my favorite things to do.
I love that. We're going to jump into college football first. And you can go back as far as you want. Dan, I know you're old, but who do you think has the best college football uniforms? And it can be any home, away, but if I say, hey, the best.
The singular best?
Yeah, of all time.
You can't tell me that Notre Dame, when they go like with the helmet and the white jersey and like the gold pants, you can't tell me that there's a better uniform. Now, Michigan, I'm a huge fan of Michigan's. UCLA's are awesome. Tennessee's are cool.
He's naming like 5.
But the one, now I grew up a Notre Dame fan. So like the one is, and when they sprinkle in a green jersey or a green pant, so I'd say Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Who you going?
I love Carolina blue. I think
Ooh, it's a good
the
one.
light blue is so pretty on a football field. So I would say that, but then I would also say I love when Ole Miss does the light blue and the red. I think the light blue and red combination is great.
I like Ole Miss and light blue more than I like North Carolina and like NBA.
Yeah,
Really?
like Ole Miss's powder
You like
blue.
the red contrast to it, or
I
what?
feel like when I think baby blue football, I think of the Chargers. I
Yeah.
don't think of Carolina.
Oh my goodness,
like
I
that.
love those.
I think of
colors.
Carolina in hoops with it, but not in football for some reason.
Well, I know why. They're more of a basketball school. But yeah, I think I would actually put Ole Miss a little bit ahead of Carolina. But I love that light blue. It does powder blue is
That's a good one.
so pretty.
I'd go Texas. I'd probably go.
Texas are sweet.
Yeah, the burnt
whites?
orange with the white, or all white with the burnt
all
orange.
white
Texas,
is
yeah.
sick.
I don't. The burnt orange doesn't like
Do it
what
for
you're
him?
talking to burnt orange jersey.
Yeah.
Nah, I go all white.
What do
all
you
white.
guys? What do you think about? Because a lot of teams will do this, like just the all black look with whatever their colors are, or
I don't
like
like
some
it.
version of it.
I don't either.
I don't either, and I want to like it because I think they do it when it's going to be like a big game, and they're like, oh, we're wearing.
I don't like it.
But, yeah,
I'm trying to
agree.
think of who else. I mean, dude, you catch a night game and Florida State's dressed appropriately, like
is he trolling?
those are
us?
sweet. Trying to
Okay.
think who else.
Oregon.
Oh, nah,
I know some people think that's like a new age, whatever. Some of the stuff looks really cool. Like
No.
really the fluorescence I love. At
I like
night.
UCLA.
It looks good. UCLA, I saw a bunch of not a bunch. I saw a few UCLA fans on the LSU campus yesterday, and I was thinking, you know what? Like, I like their
Bro,
even
do
what
you
the fans get to wear.
I'm sorry, Laura. What are you doing? Are you
This
like
is
that
bad.
chicken bone?
Yeah,
Are
Something
you
about
eat-
like getting that crunch. I feel
what
like
are
a
you
dog.
crunching on at this point, though? Like, I think there's not much
Mm.
left.
So
Is he gonna do this with the suicide wing? Let's see.
I hope.
I'm not gonna lie, the Colorados when Colorado
Oh,
goes
yeah.
all black, I like that
I agree with
because
that.
the gold like really jumps off of it.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Laura. Like, I think, in my opinion, you're one of the best on TV. Like, I'm a
Oh,
huge fan.
goodness.
It's not an
Thanks.
opinion; it's a fact.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
See,
It's a real thing.
we've talked about this.
Thank you.
Especially when it comes to women in sports, I truly believe you are like a pioneer, especially like right now. There's a lot of girls that look up to you that want to be you, especially in an industry where it might be harder to get there as a woman.
Yeah.
Like, give me this, like, from the beginning, obviously University of Florida, but like,
Go
tell me,
Gators.
like, from the very beginning, like, when did you say, hey, I want to be in sports?
Yeah, I was kind of late to the party on that, and getting to Florida and being in Gainesville. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I started in radio, which I still love radio. I would do radio only if I could. And the cool thing was I was there at a time when it was booming. We had an incredible basketball team there for 07 to 11. We had national championship in football. I got to cover that as a sophomore in college. So to be able to experience that, learn from people, that was when I kind of got the itch. And it was funny because I really did kind of flip a coin between Florida and Florida State. I wondered if I had gone to Florida State, if I would have had a completely different career path. Because it was really the juice of being in Florida and being able to watch this team do what it was doing and the highs and the lows of that particular 08 football team, but then other teams that were winning too. I loved that, and I loved covering that and telling their stories. So that was how I decided that's what I want to do. The other interesting thing about that time was somebody who, I worked with at the radio station said, you're not going to stick out at all unless you have a niche, and you didn't play any sports. So like, what's your niche going to be? I'm like, shoot, I don't know. Like, I need to find one. And I realized that there wasn't really a female presence in college football recruiting. So that's when all those recruiting websites were booming, and, they were looking for the 1 and 2 star Dan Orlovsky types on those sites, and ignoring all the 4 and 5 stars. How many stars?
That was 3-star.
Yeah.
Out of high school?
Honestly,
Why do you say, of
he
course?
probably should have been a higher rated guy. Like, you think what he did in his career. But anyway, so I thought, all right, I'm going to do that. Like, that's going to be my thing. That's going to be my niche. And then I was like, how am I going to do that? So I would basically drive up and down the state of Florida and go to every 7-on-7 camp I could possibly find. They were doing all those Nike camps and things like that. And I think, one of the biggest things, and we all see this in being in this business, is the work that you put in may not always love you back the way that you loved it, but it will at least give you something to keep standing on, right? Like, you're not going to do this unless you just say, I'm going to show up and someone's going to give me a chance. Like, that does not happen in this business. You have to grind for it. You have to work so hard. And I think we're all still doing that, but I am proud of that work that I put in when I was in my, early 20s and trying to figure out what this was going to be.
I mean, like I said, you're just a monster right now when it comes to TV. 2017 is when you get the SEC Nation,
Yeah.
host of SEC Nation. How did that feel like that day? Was that would you say that was like your moment, your first moment?
That was the first time that somebody took a chance on me to do something that wasn't as expected. Like sideline reporting, there's a lot of women in sideline reporting and they do an incredible job. It's a hard job. But I believe we need more women on these shows and more women to have a seat at the table. So for them to give me that chance was huge. And I think when I first found out I was going to be doing it, I had a lot of anxiety about it, but I also knew that I needed to learn how to do it. And I was just hoping that they would let me learn. And then still, it probably is similar to what, I would never relate it to what an actual quarterback feels or whatever. But when you're out on the field and all of a sudden it's coming at you so fast, and that's what it sometimes feels like to host a show when you've never done it before. So I had a lot of that early on. And I'll never forget, after the first show, one of our bosses called and said, well, that was terrible. And you need to completely redo the way that you're doing this. We need to re-rack the show. It needs to be completely different. And there was this defeating moment. But I remember thinking, okay, but I have to continue to figure out a way to earn my spot at this table. And that has always been the way that I've approached it. So I think it was a lot of grateful, but also a lot of stress, and that's probably still what every day is in this business. I try to live in more of the grateful than the stressful, but it is something that I believe in. If we can keep seeing women in these spots, there will be more opportunity for the next generation who comes around.
I love that. Yeah, she's the best.
She's fantastic.
On college football, we're in the somewhat thick of things right now. Who's standing out right now in college football?
Everyone in the SEC but Ohio State. No, yeah, I mean Texas looks fantastic.
Ohio State's not even in the
SEC.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone in the SEC.
Plus Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Texas looks fantastic. You have to be impressed with what Tennessee did on the road. I don't even think Tennessee played well, and they stomped OU. Bama looks promising. Ohio State looks dominant. Ole Miss looks fantastic. I think Ole Miss is a problem just because I know you think he's the best quarterback in college football, but he is a problem to handle just because he's
Jay Dart?
Yeah. You can give him the ball 15 times and he'll go get you 40. He's a big bowling ball of a human, and he'll throw the ball downfield too. So
their defense is so much better too.
Yeah. I haven't seen Mizzou play it, so I can't really comment on Mizzou. I know they squeaked out versus Vandy, but I know they're good. I know their defense is really strong and Burden's really good. So, yeah, I mean, it's the SEC plus Ohio State.
What do you think, Laura?
So I agree with the teams that you named. I think what's interesting, just bigger picture, is we've seen the transfer portal allow some of these teams that, were kind of a tough team to play, but you're probably going to beat them, to actually make themselves into complete teams. So we've seen Ole Miss do it with the portal. Their defense is a lot better. Tennessee's defense is great. And they've done that, via the portal, and I'm sure NIL, it's all hand in hand. But I think that's kind of a cool, underrated thing to make it to where, Georgia, Alabama, they don't want to play these teams.
Yeah.
Now, Georgia's interesting though, Dan, because I still think they're going to be right there at the end, right? But we've seen Texas overtake them as the number one team. Georgia's offense is not what it needs to be. And their defense isn't what it was a few years ago, when they were winning championships almost solely based on the defense. They don't have that type of defense. So they need to be a little bit better offensively.
Could it be accurate to say that Texas more talented, Ole Miss more talented, Tennessee more talented? It is interesting when you look at Georgia.
And that's not been their approach. Because they have developed, they have recruited well, because they're this powerhouse team, and Kirby Smart's done such a good job of replacing guys, but they haven't to your point, they haven't gone out and gotten, all these guys in the portal because they didn't need to because they have the positions.
But the interesting thing about them is they've had the best team and defense in college football for, let's call it, 4 or 5 years. Who was the guy that went from those teams that has been a dominant pro?
Well, the Eagles drafted a bunch of them.
Right, and none of them have become dominant yet. Jalen Carter's had moments. That's why I'm like,
no, that's a good point.
It's interesting that like the way that Kirby sets it up, it is very the sum of our parts is greater than the individual type of thing. So that's why it's still a fantastic football team and still very good and still talented. But like, which one of those guys has gone to the league and his talent is so high that he's become a guy in the NFL? Like, we haven't seen it out of all those cats that have been drafted. And you make the case that even Brock is the one that like you sit there and go, all right, and Ladd hasn't done a ton right now, but that offense for the Chargers is a little bit run centric, but you could sit there and make the case individual talent wise or individual piece wise, Tennessee's probably more talented than Georgia. Bama, probably more talented than Georgia. Texas, probably more talented than Georgia.
No, that's a good point. Hey, y'all, it's Pat, and I'm back to talk to you today about this episode's presenting sponsor, Ag America. Some of my favorite people. Ag America is your go-to financial partner for all things agriculture. As the largest independent financial firm dedicated to rural America, Ag America is changing the game of ag lending and leveling up financing options for farmers, ranchers, and landowners across the nation. I'm going to let you in on a secret, too. The thing that sets this company apart from the rest are the people. They understand firsthand the unique needs of American farmers and ranchers because many of them grew up on the farm themselves. They take a farmer-focused approach to finance, prioritizing relationships over transactions to help you build a stronger financial foundation for your farm and your family. So whether you're looking to buy land or secure working capital, Ag America has your back. Visit agamerica.com today to learn more and see how they can help you achieve long-term financial success. Because when farmers thrive, we all do. Hey y'all, it's Pat. I'm here to talk about one of my favorite sponsors, Fresh from Florida. The food always tastes better when it's grown closer to home. When you look for the Fresh from Florida logo where you shop, you know you're getting the freshest, best tasting, and highest quality products available. From Florida farms to your table, our farmers work year-round to bring you freshness that only the Sunshine State can offer. Whether it's lettuce in winter or citrus in summer, Florida delivers flavors that celebrate every season. Fresh from Florida, grown by local farmers, enjoyed by you all year long. It's kind of a hot take over the last probably 12 months now. When you think about NIL and the portal, like in your opinion, has that ruined college football or?
It's altered college football very much so. Ruined, I don't want to use the word ruined because it's a negative connotation. College football is obviously very different. The way that we view players is very different. The way that you build a football team is very different. There's a lot of good that has come from the NIL. There's also a lot of negative that's come from NIL. Like and everyone's heard them. If you're at certain positions and you don't play, I'm gone. Like instead of figuring out a way to make it through or hang on and wait for your opportunity or earn it or stuff like that. And I think it puts coaches in a really tough spot. Development is no longer a thing. Like you leave it for teams ranked 15 through 100 to develop the player, and then you go take them. That's the unfortunate reality with the NIL. And I think the intention was that it would level the playing field for some because they could raise the finances necessary. Mm-hmm. But like you just have big bank beats little bank nonstop.
I do think there was this level of like no one's catching the Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan world, right? And now some of the teams that were kind of knocking on that door, they are a little bit more even, right? Because
how?
Well, Tennessee, for instance, Tennessee hasn't been what Tennessee. I mean,
but Tennessee's a blue blood, like it's an original.
They are, but
blue
they
blood.
hadn't been what they were. I mean, they had that.
Why are you so high? Sorry, Laura. Why are you so high on Tennessee?
Tennessee is really good.
I think their quarterback is super talented.
You know what happened when Tennessee went in the swamp last year?
They got smoked.
Yeah.
Well, that's last year, Bub.
They did not have Nico Iamaleava then.
Michigan.
You know what's going to happen this year when the Gators go to Knoxville?
They're going to get stomped, pal. When Florida goes to Knoxville this year,
I think the Gators come out winning. Sorry, go ahead.
I think
If
Tennessee
that
tries to
happens-
score 65 points.
Wow.
I'll take that bet.
And they might.
No, hold on. I'll take that bet.
Have you
I didn't say they
seen-
would, but I think
love the
they
Gators,
try
but
to.
have you seen their defense?
It's bad.
So that's
But here's my
tough.
point with NIL. This is why I push back to you on it. If all the other schools, so first of all, every kid in the country wants to go play in the SEC, or 95% of the kids in the
Maybe
country
the Big
want.
Ten some too.
Correct,
But you're right.
most of the kids, if I can play, I want to go play in the SEC. Like I have friends whose kids during the recruiting process, the conversation is go play in the SEC because if you can do it in the SEC, you'll do it in the NFL, and like
Right.
the NFL knows that.
Right.
So if you were to tell me that a bunch of the other schools got the uptick in the NIL support or funds or whatever we're calling it, and the SEC didn't, then maybe I would believe in like the level playing field more. But the SEC schools that are the notorious for 70 years top schools, they also got it as well. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like
That's a good point.
the gap is still the gap.
There is a gap. I don't think there was an illusion that gap was completely disappearing, to be totally honest. Like I think people knew where I'm pushing back is that you haven't seen Tennessee be this level, and some of it's Josh Heupel, right? Like he deserves a ton
Sure.
of credit with what he's done, but you haven't seen them be what they have been even a couple years ago when they were making the playoff run, and then unfortunately Hendon got hurt. But Ole Miss, like
Same with
Ole
Ole Miss,
Miss, they weren't building teams like this, and people call
Missouri.
Lane Kiffin the portal king. Eli Drinkwitz, what he had a few years ago when he got there versus what this has been built into now. And then there's still, I think, examples of good coaching, and that
See,
it's
that's
hard.
what I think is sometimes the NIL, I think, minimizes the impact of
think
the
about-
coaches that they've actually done. Like
Good
Eli
point.
can coach.
Think about Vandy. Think about Clark Lee, who was
Yeah.
down and out. I get it.
Mhm.
They lost it to Missouri in overtime, but who was having Vandy going to the 7th ranked team in the country and pushing them to the brink like that? They should have actually been 3-0 heading into that game. Clark Lee's taken over the defense. Like there are still examples, I think, of really good coaching jobs, and what these coaches, and I know no one wants sympathy for the coaches, but like what the coaches are trying to manage right now is insane. The one thing that needs to happen, which we all know, is this needs to have some sort of blanket control, and there's just nothing. Like everybody can do whatever they want. It is still the wild, wild west, which we're now a few in, and Nick Saban warned us of all this. He said it was going to happen. So many of these coaches have talked about it. They've had to accept that it's part of what they're going to be dealing with, but
It's made it two conferences. though.
You think
Yeah.
that's why Saban, at the end of the day, hung it up is because of NIL?
I mean, didn't he kind of intimate that with some of his comments?
I would say, having talked with him at length about this, that it was a large factor in what this is. And it's not that he didn't think the players should be paid. He wants the players. He's a player's coach at the end of the day.
It was
He
no
wants-
longer about development.
It wasn't about development, and there's no control. So he's when you think you can do one thing and then you're not supposed to do the other thing, but then you look around and, oh well, now that other thing is okay. There's no way to like actually do what you want to do. I also think there is a world where he had so many assistant coaches that would leave, and he hasn't said this, but this would just be my guess in watching it, that he was having to not only rebuild a team every year, but also rebuild a staff. And it's the beauty of being at Alabama and having success and all that. But
It's hard
when
to
you've
win
got no
consistently in that
continuity
conference, yeah.
there, you know, like that's really, really hard. So I think that factored in as well as just too, I mean, some of the times have changed with what it's like to coach players. There is a disconnect at times between what, you know, Coach Saban would want out of somebody versus what maybe a younger or different coach would want out of these players and how they would respond to it. There's a lot more, I think, sensitivity that you have to approach some of these players with now.
Dude,
than
I'll
you
share a
used to.
story with you, and I won't tell you the name of the coach, but I remember
yeah.
a coach talking about kind of like this very thing. And he said that he had a player come into his office like the night before the spring game and say, "Hey, coach, this other program is offering me X amount of dollars through NIL." And the coach responded back saying, "I don't want to talk about this right now. Play the spring game tomorrow, and we can have this conversation after the spring game." And the kid said to him, or the young man said to him, "I'm not playing in the spring game unless you pay me more than this other place is going to pay me." And the coach like sat there and was like, "Play in the spring game and we can have this conversation after." And the kid was like, "I'm not playing. unless you pay me and you tell me right now you're going to give me more. And then the coach was like, all right, then our conversation is over. Like, go do what you have to do.
That's happening all over the place.
It is.
That's crazy.
And I'm sure stuff like that has happened for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's happened like that directly, and that like just to imagine being a coach, and all these coaches got into coaching before NIL. So they didn't get into it to, I mean, obviously everyone wants to make a living, but you get into coaching to coach and develop. Yeah. And I don't care who you talk to. That is always going to be a message from a coach. They got into it before NIL. So now they're like, what?
Seems like Dabo's struggling a little bit too with it.
Well, he's run counter to it, and he said, I'm not doing this, and that's not how I'm going to build my team.
I'll tip my hat to him for it. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you think it's the dumbest thing in the world or not, whether you think it's hurt Clemson or not, at least he's convicted about it, man. At least he doesn't blink off of it. I don't know if it's going to ruin Clemson or not.
I just think that you have to look and say, this storm cloud is taking over the entirety of what my world is. And like, I can't evacuate the storm before it's going to hit me. And I think he could actually end up being in a situation where he's not benefiting the other players who would be on the team. Like if you're Clemson, you don't need an entire team made out of NIL transfer portal players. Like you don't. I mean, they have. I mean,
I don't know. Like I don't know.
There are a lot of kids that still want to go to Clemson. I think.
Sure. Oh yeah. He's still getting recruiting classes. You just don't know.
I think it's a balance, and nobody knows exactly what the perfect balance is. I mean, Kirby Smart's talked about this too. Like they look at it like almost free agency. So they say, all right, we need a wide receiver. We need a DB. Like, we're going to hand pick these guys. And because they're Georgia, they can get specific players and they can get them at the highest level. But he's like, I'm hoping that the person comes in and like fits our culture. I don't know. They may not be a fit for our culture.
Yeah.
And that's the whole other side of it too. But that's also an elite college football problem to have. Like, there's all these other teams that are like, give me anybody, and trying to make it
rear
work.
its ugly head at some point with the quarterbacks.
I agree.
At some point, some place is going to go buy a quarterback with expectations and pay him a good bunch of money. We're probably seeing a little bit this year I
think to get a good QB right now, like the QB market in college football, it's like $1.5 million right now.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
you think
that's
more?
For like an okay quarterback. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We know of one.
What is it to go get a good QB right now? How much do I got to go pay? Like if I say
a good one.
If I say Dan, and I've got some good QBs,
a good one or a difference maker.
Dan, I want a difference maker.
$5 million. I think.
Like some are making.
If you were a really good team, really good college football team, and when I say that, if you're a top 10 roster, and you think you can win a national championship with really good quarterback play, and you wanted to go get Arch Manning. Now, I give the Manning family unbelievable credit for the way that they're handling it all.
Yeah.
At least $5 million.
$5 million.
$1 million? Nah.
I said, up to $1.5 million. I don't know.
I think $1 million is like your middle of the road. Like, I need somebody who I think I can build an offense around, or maybe I have a really good running back and like I'm gonna,
I want to do it for $1.5 million. I mean, if to get me out of this chair to go back and play football, you're gonna have to pay me 10, 15, maybe $20 million.
What, on the video games or
real life?
Honestly, do you think you can throw a football 25 yards right now?
I think I probably can sling that thing about 50 to 60 yards.
I will bet you.
What are you going to bet me?
Everything.
This is going to need to happen.
50 to 60 yards in college football?
Dan can still sling it.
I don't even know.
Google me. Google me.
He said Google me. I'm gonna.
No, we don't need to Google because you're
Pat Spinoza throwing a ball.
We're going to go out on the street right now. If anyone has a football, we're going to just sling it.
I'm literally going to Pat Spinoza throw.
I wonder
I don't know what's going to come up either.
Absolutely nothing. Listen up, Bills Mafia. Boomerang challenge. Yeah, I got nothing.
Dan, how far could you throw it? Like, if you really...
Our college football right now?
Yeah.
I'm at my guess is like 40 or 50 yards.
Yeah. Dan,
Well, we'll make that happen. Though.
Dan's
I
still
bet you
good.
I can toss the ball further than you.
Buddy.
are you hurting something doing it, or are you feeling
No,
okay
I'm
the
feeling
next day?
good.
You're going to be in a sling the next day and no shot.
Okay, before we get into NFL, I want to play a game. I play a game on this show, okay? This game is sponsored by Wingnutz, and it's called the Group Challenge.
Okay.
And I've asked y'all a couple of these questions before, especially at the draft, so we'll see. I'm throwing you a couple layups. I'm going to start with you, Dan. Laura was Miss Florida.
Yeah.
What year and what was her talent
I've
competition?
answered this, and I actually think I was accurate with it.
What year?
So, 2007.
Wow. How old do you think I am?
2011.
That's closer.
And what was her? It's not 2011.
Talent?
It's 2012. And what was her talent competition?
Talent?
Yeah, like you have to do a talent competition.
Yeah. The Worm.
Dan.
Actual
Dan.
talent? I would imagine something to do with like pageantry. So
It was ballet.
ballet. Oh yeah, she was a professional dancer.
Yeah.
Okay, so lost that one. Hey, Dan Orlovsky.
Cool.
What round was he drafted and by what team?
Oh, shoot. Well, he was
First.
drafted by the Lions, and I'm going to say 4th round.
One more shot, and if you don't get this, you have to take a suicide wing.
Oh, no. Wait. 3rd round.
Suicide.
No.
Thank you for thinking that I was better.
It was 5th round.
Fifth round,
yeah.
pick
I was
145.
trying to give him more credit.
Yeah.
Fifth round,
Yeah.
pick 145.
Wow.
Laura
Dan.
went to what university and what sorority was she in at that university?
Ooh, he's not going to get the.
She went to Florida. What
Florida.
sorority?
Yeah.
Kappa?
No.
Beta?
No.
He's just going to name
Zeta?
Greek letters.
Yes. Zeta.
Oh, good job, Dan.
Yeah,
Is
so-
it just one thing, Zeta?
Well, it's
Yeah.
Zeta Tau Alpha, but
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah.
All right. Dan
I can't
I
Orlovsky.
feel like
that.
I'm 2 for 2.
Dan
No, you missed
No.
the first one.
One
Yeah.
for 2. I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Dan Orlovsky in his
Okay.
senior year at UConn, he went head to head with this guy who was actually a Heisman candidate and a first round pick
Oh, shoot.
from NC State.
Junior
Who
year.
is that guy?
Junior year.
Junior year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great game.
Yeah, it was a great game.
Great game.
Almost won.
Philip Rivers?
P. Riv.
Wow.
T.A.
Let's
McClendon?
freaking Go.
T.M. McClendon, Jericho Kochery. Can I tell you a story about that game?
Absolutely. You
So
can
we're
tell
at
me a story.
UConn. I'm a junior, but we got good. North Carolina State was like top 5, 6 in the country. So we go down there. I think this was right after or recently after they beat Florida State actually that year, a couple weeks before we played them. We go down there and like I'm telling you, we were a good football team. But we could play. And so we're in a game. One of my boys, this dude named Alfred Fincher, who played linebacker for us, has the game of his life. Like he was playing the game because Philip would do so much at the line of scrimmage and he was a smart backer. So like he would be calling out their plays. He had P. Riv greased, dude. And so we're down 14 in the 4th quarter with like 8 minutes to go. And I get to the sideline, we get the ball, and I go to our coordinator. I'm like, hey, they're doing this. Let's do this. Score. We get the ball back with like 5 or 6 minutes left. And I literally go into the ground and I draw up I'm like, hey, the safety's doing this, blah, 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 this and that. We score. Throw a touchdown pass to O'Neal Wilson, dude from Canada. So it's a 14-point game in the 4th. We tie it with like 3 minutes to go. They go 3 and out. We get the ball back, I want to say, with like a $130 at like our own 20-yard line. And I think our coach is just going to go into overtime because our kicker was a little bit like a young kid. I don't think we had any timeouts. And he was like, let's go win the ball game. So I was like, sweet,
Ooh.
let's go win the ball game. First play, I throw a bang 8 to this dude named J.C. Williams, which is like a backside post for like 25 yards. And I'm like, holy fudge, dude, we're going to do it. So we call the play. And I think that I'm getting a blitz off of the front side of the field. So I changed the play. I changed the protection. And I'm throwing like a backside wrap in. And I go 1, 2, 3, and I throw a pick to a dropping defense. Totally guessed wrong. This is probably with like 40 seconds on the clock, 30 seconds on the clock. I guess wrong. Might have been less than that. I guess wrong. He picks it off. Not only does he pick it off, buddy,
Takes
house
us
to
to
the
the
house. So I just remember chasing after him, diving, not even remotely close to actually getting him.
Somebody find this footage, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freddie Autry Lindsay was his name. Diving and like hitting the ground. I honestly believe it was within seconds of the game ending, and looking up and just seeing the fans go crazy. That's how we lost that game.
I have heartbreak for that game right now. I don't remember that game.
Yeah, we
but
just
the way
locked in. You kind of
t-
just put us in there.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. When I tell you, I'm not
Dan, you were
exaggerating like the
so
timing of it.
close.
Like it might have ended the game. It might have quite literally been the last play of the game. Pick 6. And imagine UConn on the road versus like number 6 North Carolina State.
The other detail that I thought was really notable there is that Dan was like drawing plays on the ground, like the mind of Orlovsky that now we see on television. That's become a phenomenon. It was like it was there.
I remember the field safety. I was like, if we do this to the field safety, we could throw a post behind him.
It's unbelievable how good, and I hate saying this in front of him.
So
I said it at the CAA outing the other day. And obviously CAA like represents a lot of people, and it got brought up, we just got done playing golf, had a couple cocktails.
Thanks for
and I was like, there is nobody on TV right now that's better than Dan Orlovsky. I'm like yelling, and everybody's like, yeah, quiet down, man.
No, they know that. No, they know that. They know that about you.
No, you're great. You really are. Love playing that game. Thank you, Wingnutz. We're going to get in the NFL. Question for you, though. You played for 12 years, like, for 3 or 4 teams?
I think 4 teams, 5 different, maybe 5 teams, 4 different organizations. Because I doubled down in Detroit.
Was there like, when it comes, I mean, you were backup, a few of them. Like, was there anybody that you were looking up to as a QB or that taught you a lot? Like, who was your kind of mentor in the league, no matter what team it was, but that you kind of latched on to?
Football-wise or human-wise?
Football-wise.
Football-wise. Like early on, football-wise, it was, the head coach at Bowling Green now is a dude named Scott Leffler. So he was at Michigan with, I think he was at Michigan with Brady. But he was really good. I had him relatively young. He was really good at like teaching some of the mechanical stuff that I had to grow in to like continue to hope to have a job. And then after that, Gary Kubiak, he was the best coach that I could have ever asked for. He was so smart with how to look at the game, how he taught the game, how he taught the position, how he forced the quarterbacks to prepare for the position. I think that was a massive, massive, massive thing for me as a player, and really now in my job at ESPN, like just how to prepare to play every single game, and the way that you studied football and studied tape and studied defense. That was the NFL for me. I think being around Sean McVay and just the way that Sean looked at film and thought about football, his like that was big time when it came to that like mentorship. But I was super blessed, man. I was super lucky. Like when I grew up, I had a high school coach that like demanded that I learn how to watch tape. Like, and it empowered us as a high school program to be maybe better than our talent, because we did a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage. So like he was really good at like teaching me what it was like to watch tape. And then in college too, I've always told people this, like at UConn, we were always going to, as we were trying to become a better program, play teams that were more talented than us. The only way to change the talent gap is the intellect gap. So like I would again learn how to study tape and learn how to study defenses and get tells from defenses in college. So then I could be at the line and be like, I know what you're doing. Then I'm going to get us into the absolute best play versus what you're doing and advantage us. So I was way more impacted like by the brain and the X's and O's in football IQ, maybe more than like the physical.
Yeah, I could see that. That's huge.
Well, it's funny, dude, because we were at practice yesterday.
Yeah.
And Josh threw like a 65-yard absolute launch ball to MVS. And I went to our producer, Brian Ryder, and I was like, one of the things that people say to me all the time on social media is like, hey, how come, because they're like, you're good on TV, how come you didn't make it in the NFL? And I'm like, I've fudging played 12 years, but
yeah.
And I was like,
yeah, come on.
I'm like,
that's hard to do.
because that dude, like, Because there's that's why I wasn't capable of doing that stuff. Like, and Josh does it.
So, I mean, what a
does,
tiny handful of people are capable of
Yeah,
that.
but like
Yeah.
that's like those dudes are they're different humans.
Yeah, they are. And because I think that's probably how Josh learned most of his techniques and how to throw a football is from me. So, why is it quiet?
I'm just. Yeah.
Well, I
All
mean,
right.
we're going to find out because you are going to
Yeah,
go
we've
out
got
there and throw that football.
I honestly, I'd be willing to bet you can't throw.
Dan,
okay, you know
I
what?
don't know about can't
Moving on. Okay,
throw.
we have 3 shows now under the media company. Josh and I do. We do. We're in the process of building out a cooking show. I think you should be the host of the
I'm
cooking
in.
show.
Oh, 100%. I've been trying to get somebody to do a cooking show.
I think you would be really
All
good
right,
at
so
it.
we're on record right now. Dan is our witness that I will host
the cooking show. Yes, boom. That's huge.
I have a wide variety of.
You're good at it. Yeah, I
things
mean,
that I make
live
too,
vicariously through your social
I
media.
don't think it's her.
Well, we're gonna have proof now, Dan. So I'm
Um,
hosting Pat's cooking show.
before
For free.
we went,
It's okay.
NFL Live, okay, 2020. You see it
Yeah.
all the time, like every single week. What has changed? I mean, we were at the draft together this past year. Like, what has been a surprising movement in the NFL this year? That's like, wow.
You know, so I would say this is surprising, even though I shouldn't have thought it was surprising, but I should have seen it coming, I guess is a better way to put it. I'm surprised at how, like, I think these rookie quarterbacks, and I still think this, but I think they are rock stars. Like, I expected them to be a little bit better early on. The Bears, to me, and it's, you know, they've been able to win games because of their defense, whatever, but I thought Caleb would be a little better than he's been. I think Jaden's had some nice moments. I'm a little bit surprised by Bo Nix, and not because I thought Bo Nix was going to be this, you know, take the NFL by storm guy, but I just thought the scheme that Sean Payton would use with him would be better, or that he would be better in it, maybe is the better way to put it. But I know that it's so early still and the jury's still out on that, but I'm a little surprised by that. And the other surprise for me has been the Ravens. I was so high on the Ravens. I thought Derrick Henry was going to be like the it factor that they needed to set up Lamar better and like to make their offense run better as a whole. Obviously, we felt like they should have run the ball more even toward the latter part of the season. It felt like they made the moves there to make that happen. The way they can use the tight ends, it just feels like they're a bit more of a mess than I thought they would be, and that's been a little disappointing. I still think with Lamar, you know that you have one of, if not the biggest X factors in the game, but it seems like when they get to these moments at the end of the game, they don't have a finisher, they don't have a closer, and I thought they were closer to that. So
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, overall NFL trends is you can't win if you can't run the ball, and that wasn't the case 4 or 5 years ago. You know, I was just talking with Josh about this yesterday, and you know, Josh is as talented as anybody at the position and all that stuff. And I said, hey, you know, kind of what's the goal Monday night? Like, what do you got to really do? And he goes, we got to be efficient on first down. And I was like, that is nothing like what your first couple of years were in the NFL. You know, it's just, and you have to be efficient on first down because the way defenses are playing it. And there's 2 ways, you know, you got to be good with making sure that your pinpoint and precision passing game is there, or you got to run the football. And that is not 2019, 2020, 2021 NFL. And so like, that's the trend is like, if you can't, and this is what the NFL was, you know, probably 25 years ago, 30 years ago, like that was the thing. And it slowly over a decade transitioned to like, you got to score a gajillion points. And so everything being cyclical, like that's definitely the overwhelming trend.
Why do you think it went back this way?
Number one, the rules changes on defense, meaning like you can't put hands on receivers past 5 yards and you can't destroy receivers going across the middle. So that promotes teams wanting to throw the ball more. That's number one. Number two, the athletic quarterback has surged. And so like when you have athletic quarterbacks, they can make more plays out of structure or above the X's and O's. And the receivers have developed so much because of high school 7-on-7s. And so again, the passing game is more dynamic for offenses. The rules promote you to do it more. And then so defenses have said, well, we have to, one, minimize, big plays down the field. So you do that by numbers. You put more safeties back and deeper. And then two, teams play with 5 defensive backs more than they ever have because they want an athlete on the field more than a linebacker to, again, try and minimize the impact of the pass game. And so then offenses, or smart offenses, slowly started to pay attention to that and be like, well, then we need to play with a fullback and run the ball. Or we need to have 2 tight ends and run the ball. Or, we can't force the big plays. We have to force them out of that defense. The only way to force teams out of that defense, I'm sorry, I'm getting nerdy here, but like you got to run the football because then they have to bring an extra body down to the ball, or you have to play action. So I think that's kind of like the league that was 25 years ago. And so that's like the big trend. And so like, I don't think you're going to matter this year if you can't run the football well on offense and stop the run on defense. And I think there's teams that aren't built to do that got star quarterbacks, and it won't matter.
Who's in New Orleans at the end of the year? If you had to
Who's
choose.
at New Orleans?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Who's in the Super Bowl this year? If you had to choose the 2 teams, yeah.
I mean, so before the season, I picked Kansas City and Detroit. I still feel really good about Detroit. Really good. But I think like in the NFC, I would probably bank on a Tampa or a New Orleans more than I would bank. Like I picked Philly to go to the NFC title game. I don't feel good about that now. And then I picked Houston, Kansas City to be in the AFC title game. And I feel pretty good about that right now. So I think Buffalo, I had people ask me last night, like, if you told me Buffalo was going to get Taron Johnson and Matt Milano back, I feel really good about them. But I don't know.
Milano could be back by December, maybe?
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to be Super Bowl?
So I had picked a rematch of last year's Super Bowl going into the season, and I do not think the 49ers will be able to do it. I mean, they're just depleted, which stinks considering what they had. I would still put the Chiefs there. I actually think the Saints, like there's so much about them that's so good. You think about them being in New Orleans, it'd be crazy. Maybe I'm just rooting for that, but I think the way that they're using Alvin Kamara, like, I don't know, Dan, I feel like people forgot about Alvin Kamara. And then all of a sudden, like, here he is reminding us. We talked about this the other day on NFL Live, like before the Christian McCaffreys of the world and before some of these guys, it was Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Like he was the one who made this sort of like
perfect
incredible
for this
position
offense that they're running.
Yeah.
And their offensive line's playing really good.
I don't really trust Derek Carr as much as I do other big name quarterbacks, but I think they
got to
can
get by
work
Tampa.
Around. Yeah, and I love Tampa.
Yeah, part of the thing is, I've said this all offseason, don't ask me who the good teams are, ask me who the bad ones are.
Yeah.
The parity in the NFL is just ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, who's bad?
Carolina.
Panthers.
Okay. Who else?
That was quick.
I mean, shoot.
You're right.
Like,
I was a little
even
iffy.
Teams that are
I was a
0-2.
little iffy on Vegas, but Minshew just every single week proves that he's a dog.
Games.
Yeah.
Tennessee's defense is like Tennessee's 0-2, but Tennessee is a play here, a play there from being 2-0.
The Browns looked terrible, but then Deshaun was like a little bit
No,
better.
it's Carolina.
Jacksonville's 0-2, but Jacksonville's 3 or 4 plays from being 2-0.
Better
So it's
than
like
that.
It's Carolina. That's the only bad team in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
that is freaking cool though. I mean, not for Carolina fans, but just for us to get to cover this league.
The league is just
It
so
is
deep.
strong.
Yeah.
So deep.
It is. What
Who do you have in the Super Bowl?
Oh, I would probably say
Buffalo and
Tampa. My dude. No. I would
what a dork.
I'm gonna say on the NFC, I feel really good about Tampa, and that's not being biased. Tampa or the Saints. I'm kind of gonna sneak in, which is gonna sound bad, but I just at some point they have to get there. I do like Dallas. I do. Like I know
They're not going to be as bad as they were against the Saints. Like,
I agree,
don't think.
and I just think the Saints are that good. But I would have to go if you said right now who's it going to be. I do think Baker leads the Bucs to the Super Bowl, and then on the AFC side, I think it's going to be Texans. I think it'll be Houston and Tampa.
That's a good Super Bowl.
I don't think that's like outrageous.
Yeah.
Before we have to wrap up, like I want to talk about like what y'all do today because it's interesting to me, and I just love turning on the TV and seeing y'all. And like, where do you see you've got McAfee's show, you've got all of these new things that ESPN is doing. Like, what do you think sports media, like where that's going Because, I mean, Sports Center, ESPN as a whole has changed a lot over the years. Like, where do you see the trend moving towards when it comes to sports media going on TV?
She's way smarter in TV than I am. Like,
but like, you get what I'm saying. Like, Pat's show is just totally different than what you're used to when it comes to ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think she has a way better vantage point of like TV. Me, like, I think obviously live events take them because at the end of the day, people want to be, people want like sports to be sports, man. They just want sports and to talk about sports and to learn about sports and to laugh about sports and to argue about sports. So like, I think like ESPN is in a really good sweet spot of like just doing sports, dude, like just doing sports. And maybe there's a little bit more of, a lighter side that Pat has brought, maybe not as suit, vintage or suit centric as that Pat has brought, but that's Pat. Like Pat is one of one. There is no, if you try to go be Pat, you're done. Like Pat is Pat, so like, I think you just got
Who's your favorite Pat between me and McAfee?
Probably Sajak, just because massive Wheel of Fortune fan. But
he added another Pat to try to,
and then It's Pat, great
divert your
movie.
question.
Great movie.
No, if you have to choose between Pat Spinoza or Pat McAfee, who are you choosing?
You're gonna have to choose.
If I had to choose between one of you guys,
yeah,
I would take McAfee.
Whoa. Wow.
Sorry.
Well, I would
Always
choose
honest.
you, Pat.
No, she wouldn't.
like, would you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're just playing the moment. You'd be a tough choice,
It wasn't that tough. You didn't.
No, yeah, you just
You
immediately
just
said
did.
McAfee.
Am I playing Pine Valley? Am I playing Oakmont?
I got you. What do you think about like where?
Well, Dan said it well. The live events will be king, and that's never been more true than it is now. I think what we find now is that viewers really want to kind of make their viewership a la carte. Like they want to make it their own and tailor it to what they care about. So that's why like being on a league-based show is awesome because our digital views and people that, they won't sit down necessarily and watch the show right at 4 p.m. We love the people that do, but there's a lot of people that'll just stream it and they say, I don't need to, base my schedule around a show. I'll catch it when I want to catch it. And I think kind of leaning into that, knowing that that's what it's going to be. That's what the business is now is smart and good. And we'll keep doing that. And I think one thing that, has continued to become more apparent to me is that people want to be entertained. So they want to learn something, which our show, if we're talking specifically about our show, we're going to teach you something. And Dan is a ringleader of that. And Mina brings such a unique element. And Marcus brings the entertainment. And Ryan brings his great perspective. I think for us, like, we do have most of the time this incredible balance of fun, entertainment, and like giving each other crap. And like, it's all based on such a great friendship and family. But we also are going to, you're going to walk away, you're going to say, oh, I remember that they said, and then it plays out in the game and you say, wow, that was so cool. Like,
yeah, it's also like, can you do what's
that.
necessary?
Yeah.
Like some weekends or some games, like there's not a ton of football teaching. There's moments that you have to like have a opinion on and like, can you do that and do it well and to generate interest about what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then there's some games that like there is a lot to teach people about how it happened or what happened and all that. And so are you capable of doing that?
Yep.
So it's like, that's the cool thing about the NFL. And sometimes on a day-to-day basis, it's like, are you capable of doing all that is necessary? That is the most interesting thing in that moment.
Yep.
One thing too, like about just broadcasters in general, like Pat obviously is his own brand of broadcasting. And then you see, a Nick Saban who makes the transition into this, but that's his own thing. Like what Dan does, he's doing every single day of this, right? And he's watching every single ounce of film that's possibly available and then going on these morning shows. And that's one different gear that he has. Then he shifts into a whole other gear for NFL Live. And then also prepping the games, to do and like doing it all so well and seamlessly. I think there are very few broadcasters who can actually do that. And I think that you'll see them elevated and doing more over time. Like the day and age, especially at ESPN, of somebody saying, yep, I'm just going to do this one thing and that's it. That's gone. And it's a credit to, I think, the business of our company. Like, why would you do that? If you've got people who are excelling at all of these different things and doing them well all together, that's what we're going to continue to promote, and that's what we should promote. So what he has to do is incredibly difficult.
Oh, you turn on the TV and Dan's on this show, then that show, and then this show, and then he's on Pat's show. Right. Like, it's unbelievable.
And on Pat's show, they call him, and he's like, on the toilet or whatever he's doing. He's farting.
Does that really happen?
Hey, by the way, wait. We're back where he farted in the open of the show. His very first.
He may not even know that.
Do you know about this whole story?
The last time we were. Pat, you don't know this?
No.
We were best friends, man. This is why I chose McAfee.
You just chose McAfee over me.
You've never seen this when he came on the air?
I'll keep it short.
I did. Like, you talking about when you were
here for Monday night against the Titans, and I went.
Oh, no. Okay, no, go for it.
So, all right. Again, we're here for Monday Night Football. A lot of times when you're doing like live TV, there's stuff where you will like tape or prepare, like do a dummy practice of it. So some segments.
Rehearse the open.
Right. So some segments you will tape. That's not often, or you'll practice stuff. So this was my first time doing Monday Night Football. It was first time doing anything with the crew that it was at the moment, producer, all that stuff. And we had practiced the open 35 minutes before kickoff, right? Like, hey, let's rehearse. And you're in the moment. That place is freaking electric in those situations. So like your juices are going. I was nervous as the day is long. And I feel like we're close to kickoff, but like, I don't know, because I'm just lost in the moment. And in my ear, I hear the producer say 30 seconds to tape. So I'm thinking in 30 seconds, we're taping something. He means 30 seconds till tape comes onto the program, like a tape.
And it was the big like
image and graphic
Monday
and all that
Night
stuff.
Football, like the jazz.
So that comes on, and I think we're taping, and Steve Levy, I think, kicks it to me or Lewis, and I start talking, and I stumble within 3 or 4 seconds, and thinking we're taping, not a big deal. We'll just run it back. I go because I'm like, Josh, yeah, and Levy looks at me and goes. And my producer goes, "You're live. Keep going." And I was like, blah, 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 blah. And so, I immediately knew like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a thing. And I peeked down at my phone within like a minute, and it's just the internet is having a field day on it. So,
I mean, okay. Just quick from my perspective. So like, I knew Dan was a little nervous, like probably sent him a text before the game. Like, hey, you've got this. You're going to be great. Blah, blah, blah. Like all good. This happens. I will never forget in my ear, like the stadium's crazy. I'm down on the field. We're live. Like,
it's unreal.
We had done this poot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, Dan, like what? This is 100% honesty. I have never been more nervous in my life than when I had to go on camera after that, because
I was less nervous after it.
Yeah.
They go to break, and then it comes
you can
back
only
to
go
me.
up from there.
And I am like I was like sick to my stomach. I'm like, I feel so bad because like I knew how much it meant to him, how hard he had worked. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's like running.
I thought I was going to screw. I mean, it was, then there was a big debate. Like, what was worse, doing the fart on Monday Night Football or back of the end zone? Like, I don't know. Do we know what was worse?
Yeah, we need to ask, what's worse, farting on live air or running out of the back of the end zone, Dan?
Well, I don't know.
Got to choose one. What would you rather do?
I would probably rather fart on live air.
Yeah, than run out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
No,
I was not doing good when I had to come back out. I'm thinking this is all going down the tubes. So
before we wrap up, I live, like I said, I mean, Laura on social media is unbelievable. I'm not worried about her. Like when it comes to being outdoors, I think her.
Oh, I'm very outdoors. Like I married a country boy through and through.
She married a country boy. Like she's outdoors. You
wonderful.
Had just recently caught your first fish, so I feel like
I hate fishing.
You're finally starting to get into the outdoors. Like, do you see yourself maybe becoming a country boy, or? I
feel like in many areas of my life, I am. I don't ever anticipate that I'll be like a hunter.
Yeah.
I've never been hunting. I will. If it like someone throws the invite my way.
We can take you hunting.
I want it to be like good and cool. I don't want to do it like Marcus goes hunting all the time with his kids, and I'm like, bro, you sit there for 6 hours, like I feel like my ADD, and I got to do something. That's kind of the reason why I hate fishing Like, because I'm like,
Hey, if you come fish with us, Josh will catch like within the
Okay,
first
but,
like 5 minutes, and he'll
But
get
then
one
that
hooked
waters
for
it
you,
down.
and then no, and then he'll hand it over, and you can reel that sucker in.
but then like,
But he'll catch it. Here you go. That's like such a like little tap on. Here you go, buddy.
yeah, but then like, what is cool about that, or what is fun about
No,
that?
I'll
just,
take you hunting. We'll go hunting.
And I haven't, again, the experience, and this comes off the wrong way, and it's not meant to, but I'm saying it because I'm just, I don't even, isn't it luck a lot of times? Dude, like you launch something
You
into the water.
gotta have the right lures. You gotta have the
Okay,
right.
but
Right
that has
spots,
nothing to do with you.
GPS.
That has nothing to do with you.
No, there's some technique involved.
To having the right lure, that's someone educating you on like, use this lure.
You gotta cast that puppy out.
Again, most humans can do this. Right? You got weight on it, so the weight is
Look at
carrying
Dan's
it.
over here dogging on
I know.
fishermen. Come on now,
Again, I know fishermen are gonna like be upset about that. That's not the intention
anglers,
of it.
we should say.
Anglers, anglers.
Well,
But like,
yeah, you know what? There is some luck involved. I mean, lately, like Reese we live on water.
Love Reese. But oh my
Reese is
gosh.
the
like, how do you do something for
Reese
5
will
hours and
call
not
out
have some
where
form of
he should
success on it?
cast, and it has like a 95% success rate. Like she's like over there.
I love that.
Guessing, Laura. She's
Just like every week, she
guess.
guesses who wins.
And she's right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, all
Hey.
right. Well, Dan, I think this for the next Like a Farmer podcast, you take Dan.
Oh, we're gonna do a
Hunting.
vlog, a little hunting vlog.
I think you should
I'll go
go
as long
hunting.
as
Yeah.
it's like
I think
worthy
bow
of. I don't want to
hunting
go
for
just
him.
like I want to go and actually
You
do
think you
something.
could- you think
but I'm
you
not
could
trying
pull
to.
a
Duck
bow?
hunting, duck hunting. He'd like because you're
Duck
moving
hunting
around.
doesn't like that doesn't grab me though. Like I
Get
want to
down in
kill
a
something
blind.
that
Something
gets like
big.
the
Oh,
blood pumping
yeah.
for me a little bit.
Lord.
But I don't want to be necessarily somewhere where I'm like, this could go bad. You know,
Yeah.
like
I feel you.
I don't want to increase the chances of like dying.
Yeah. We could sit here and talk for hours. I don't want ESPN to get mad at me.
Yeah, we have a
we
camera
gotta
meeting.
go.
Thank y'all. Seriously. I
Thank
think
you.
very highly of both of y'all. I think first and foremost, I mean, you're the best mom.
Oh my goodness. Thank
You're
you.
one of the best dads. And like
Thanks, man.
for y'all to be supporters of me since day one really means a lot. I really appreciate y'all coming
You're a
on.
good dude, man. Thank
Love
you.
y'all.
Love
always
it.
always good to be on with you.
You
Good
can't
dude.
get rid of us.
Oh, I'm pumped.
You have a new show because
I have a
of
new
her.
show. We're going to do a hunting vlog.
Can't wait.
Hey, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Like a Farmer. Dan Orlovsky, Laura Rutledge. As always, continue to like, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you got to do to be like a farmer.